والذاريات ذروة الحاملات وقرا فالجاريات يسرا فالمقسمات أمرا إنما توعدون لصادق وإن الدين لواقع. And the surahs that start with ayat similar, short ayat similar to Surah Al-Dhariyat. Al-Dhariyat Dharwa is a reference to the winds. The winds that move things from one place to another, that scatter things. وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوًا فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وِقْرًا. And that wind that scatters things from place to place, in a way brings back to us the image of life. Because without that wind, plants will not grow. That wind, things will not be fertilized. This wind carries the male plants into the female plants, so it fertilizes them. It causes life. This wind is the source of life, because without it, clouds wouldn't travel from places to places. This wind distributes merchandise and commodities to lands, because without these winds, ships will not sail in the sea, in the high oceans. وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوًا. So under this word dhara in Arabic, which means to multiply, dhara in essence means to multiply. In fact, dhara or dhara'a in Arabic means to grow. Dhara'a and dhara means also to place a seed. ذَرَأَكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَإِلَيْهِ تُحْشَرُونَ. It is He who has placed you and established you as if you establish a seed in the soil, and therefore it grows. وَهُوَ الَّذِي ذَرَأَكُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ وَإِلَيْهِ تُحْشَرُونَ. And similar to that, or from that, the word ذُرِّيَّة, which means progeny and offspring. So it all comes from this small word, dhara. In fact, it carries the meaning of leaving. ذَرَ وَذَرِ الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ لَعِبًا وَلَهْوًا. Because you will not let anything, nothing will grow until you leave it. Give it time. Ibn Ata'illah Sakandari rahimahullah says, ادفن وجودك في أرض الخمول فما نبت مما لم يدفن لا يتم نتاجه. You should bury your existence in the land of infamousness, of lack of fame. If you want to grow, you should hide yourself. Don't subject yourself to people. Don't talk before you learn. Don't walk before you learn how to walk. فَمَا نَبَتَ مِمَّا لَمْ يُدْفَنْ لَا يَتِمُّ نِتَاجُ. For if you want something to grow without burying it, it will not be a strong plant. You need to bury it deep in the land. Anyway, moving from this, because this is not the topic of our discussion tonight. We are not here to talk about al-dhariyat and what do they do. وَالْحَامِلَاتِ وِقْرًا. But Allah highlights that this breeze, this wind, this simple wind, can allow, or actually they're the driving force for these huge ships. فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وِقْرًا. These ships laden with merchandise and commodities so heavy that men cannot push them. That huge amount of people cannot push these ships and move them in the sea. But that wind that is so subtle and so smooth is the reason behind their movement. فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وِقْرًا. And then what happens after you have laden these ships with commodities? فَالْجَارِيَاتِ يُسْرًا. They run so easily and nicely and smoothly. Who has taught man how to do this? Who has taught man to use his intellect and his mind to build up ships and laden them with goods and carry them from one place to another place? Who has enabled man to travel on water as he travels in the sea? This whole system that runs the universe, that runs in the universe, this whole system that dazzles a person of thinking and reflection is sometimes overlooked by people, is sometimes missed by individuals. Individuals are so blind that they are not willing to see this system. And therefore, moving from this, وَالذَّارِيَاتِ ذَرْوًا فَالْحَامِلَاتِ وِقْرًا فَالْجَارِيَاتِ يُسْرًا فَالْمُقَسِّمَاتِ أَمْرًا إِنَّمَا تُوعَدُونَ لَصَادِقٌ وَإِنَّ الدِّينَ لَوَاقِعٌ وَالسَّمَاءِ ذَاتِ الْحُبُقِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala highlights these points of reflection and attraction in the universe that subtle, that literally challenges the mind. This whole amazing system is sometimes neglected by people intentionally. Some people leave this clear answer and clear proofs to the existence of God, and what do? They go for something which the Qur'an describes as khars. Khars in Arabic, kha and ra and sad, these three letters come from the word kharasa, which means two things. One, it means lying, but why does it mean lying? It means lying because of the other meaning of the word. Khars essentially means to estimate. To estimate. In fiqh, in the legal side of Islam, in fiqh, when you want to give zakah of crops ahead of the harvest season, you can do something called khars, which is estimation. You bring an expert who knows how much crops will come, and you take him from one tree to another tree. It's not the zakah on wheat. It's not the zakah on barley. It's not the zakah on corn. It's the zakah of az-zurur wa thimar, mainly fruit. So before you are able to give the zakah, if you want to do an estimation, you do something called takhris or khars. So you get an expert and take him from one tree to another tree, and he says, oh, I estimate that this tree will carry 5 kilos of orange, and this tree will produce 6 kilos of orange, and he starts recording that. Obviously, this carries a percentage of lying, because it might not be as accurate as he has estimated it. And that's why the word khars carries the meaning of lying. So the Qur'an uses that in two ways. It says right after, قُتِلَ الْخَرَّاصُونَ. May the kharrasun, the people who do this, be cursed, be perished. Why? Who are the kharrasun? The people who estimate, not crops, but the people who still put questions because they want to evade the answers. Some people are use sophistry to avoid having clear answers. In face of this amazing system that works, they still pose questions. They still pose questions to the essentials, basically because they don't want to get the answers. You ask a question either to get an answer or just to procrastinate, to evade an answer. The first one is the productive way of learning, but the second one is the unproductive way of learning. Some people at the time of the Prophet ﷺ adopted this way. So they used to come and ask about things to prove if he's a prophet or not, and sometimes they ask questions just to dazzle him. So they came and they asked him about the nature of the soul, the ruh, the spirit. They came and asked about the young people who left their dwellings at the early days and they escaped to a cave. What was their news? They came and they asked him about the king who traveled to both sides of to the far east and the far west, the two ends of the world. They came and they asked so many questions. The Qur'an answered the questions that would have proven for them that he is a prophet, but with other questions that are only asked for the sake of khars and takdeeb, for the sake of evading an answer. The Qur'an gave them no answer. The Qur'an put them in their positions and said to them, وَيَسْأَلُونَكَ عَنِ الرُّوحِ قُلِ الرُّوحُ مِنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّي. They question about the ruh, say this is from the affair of Allah. You should not ask a question like that. It is putting them where they are supposed to be. And that's why they say, not for every question there has to be an answer. Sometimes the answer is silence. Sometimes it is very difficult to give an answer because the answer is so clear. They say, مِنْ أَشْكَلِ الْمُشْكِلَاتِ إِيضَاحُ الْوَاضِحَاتِ. It's so difficult to explain something that is so clear and so vivid. If you can see the new moon and you say, what is this? Then no one can help you. Banu Israel followed this way of khars at a certain point of their history. So when the Prophet said to them, إِنَّ اللَّهَ يَأْمُرُكُمْ أَن تَذْبَحُوا بَقَرًا. Allah commands you to slaughter a cow. They were so challenging that they said, what is a cow? A cow, in Arabic, a cow is a cow. This is not majaz, this is not metaphor. This is haqiqah, this is a reality. But they say, what is a cow? And because the questions were not for the sake of learning, the answers came down to tighten the choices for them, to give them more difficulty. So it said, Baqarah, la fariqun wa la bakr. It's a cow with specific conditions and qualities. So it tightened the choice for them. And when they asked again, with the intention of challenging their messenger, the Qur'an, the legislation came down, revelation came down, tightening their choices even further, and said, Safra'u faqi'un. It has to be purely yellow. And when they asked the third time, with the intention of learning, the Qur'an came down with the solution. And that's why in the third question they said, وَإِنَّ إِنْ شَاءَ اللَّهُ لَمُهْتَدُونَ. By the will of Allah, we will be guided. It was only at that time when their issue was solved. If they were to ask without an intention of getting an answer, to evade the answer, further complications would have been given to them. قُتِلَ الْخَرَّاسُونَ. Quran says, قُتِلَ الْخَرَّاسُونَ. Those people who try to put doubts in the hearts of others, and who live and submit and give up to doubt. Those who live their life without answering. Those who live their life answering simple day-to-day questions. What am I going to do today? Where do I want to go for the next summer? What am I planning to do at the end of the year? Where am I going to spend this weekend or the next weekend? What do I need to do in my life? But these are day-to-day questions, simple questions. They're able to answer these questions, but they're not willing to answer what am I doing in this world? Where am I going after this world? What am I doing with my whole life? These people are in real trouble. قُتِلَ الْخَرَّاسُونَ. Quran says, الَّذِينَ هُمْ فِي غَمْرَةٍ سَاهُونَ. They're in absolute heedlessness. They're taken by minute details, tiny details, that they don't see the bigger picture. They don't answer the bigger questions. It is just like someone who sees a huge painting, nice painting, and there is a little fault on the side of it. And he says, why this fault is here? What is happening? We have people nowadays who will ask the question, why there is so much suffering in the world? But don't you see that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a whole perfect system, that even suffering is part and parcel of a big system? So those people who live with these tiny details, little tiny details, they consume their life in hair splitting. The Prophet ﷺ taught us to wake up from our slumber and heedlessness. Don't ask these tiny questions. When a man from Iraq came to Imam Malik and he said, I was in Hajj and there was a mosquito there was a flea in my ihram and I killed it. What am I supposed to do? You know, when someone is in Hajj, he's not supposed to kill any animal. So there was a flea. He said, I scratched the flea, I killed it. What am I supposed to do? He said, where are you from? I said, from Iraq. He said, aren't you the people who killed Imam al-Hussein? You killed Imam al-Hussein, you shed the blood of the grandson of the Prophet ﷺ, and you're coming to ask about the blood of a flea? Some people work with this mentality. We call it flea mentality. It's as tiny as the flea. In Arabic, they say أجسام كالبغال وعقول العصافير. Like their bodies are as huge as a mule, but their heads are as small as a sparrow, as small as a bird. So some people live with that mentality, a flea mentality. That's what he wants in life. This is how he thinks. This is how he processes information. With people like these, the best thing is to avoid them, to avoid submitting to their questions unless they ask these questions with the intention of learning, Sometimes people come with these little questions that they aim with to challenge scholars and divert their attention. The Prophet ﷺ taught us, don't ask about these things. Don't live your life in slumber, because this is a form of khars, this is a form of estimation. Your life is so important and is so precious to be spent on His duty. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us understand the bigger picture.